Hello, friends, and welcome to Inks and Issues, a book club podcast for comics, and this time manga. I'm your host, Hot Sandwich Man Jonah Gregory.
My name's Kieran, and I struggle to keep my emotions in check all the time.
And today we have a special guest.
Hey, I'm Steph, and I'm definitely not a kaiju.
It's exactly what a kaiju would say.
Is it?
We're covering a book I had never heard of until Steph suggested it for the show. Kaiju Girl... What did we decide on? Kaiju Girl...
Caramelise.
Caramalise. They never say that. Is that her name? Like, it's never referenced.
I don't understand. It's not her name. It doesn't really have anything to do with the story, as far as I can tell.
I don't understand where that word came from.
Maybe it just made it look fancy on the cover by having a longer word.
That's fair. They could have just called it Kaiju Girl, because that's pretty fitting.
Well, Kaiju Girls is already a series.
Oh, that would be part of the problem then.
As I discovered when I was researching for this episode.
Interesting.
I think the other reason is because the covers have the logo where it's like the Kaiju Girl part is all more industrial and monstrous looking, and then Caramalise is like all cutesy and bubbly looking. So it may have just been what cool logo can we come up with, and then we'll name it from there. I assume that's how comics work, having made some, but All right. So, Steph, before we get into this, you are also on another podcast that people have probably heard of if they've heard of this one. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I am on Welcome to St. Paxton, which you can find at St. Paxton Podcast on Twitter. It's an actual play, pulp Cthulhu, edited down like an audio drama, spooky sci-fi mystery horror. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You should check it out if you haven't listened.
Yes, I have listened to some of it because there's a lot of it. I'm not caught up on any podcast currently because there was a time and a place where I was caught up on so many podcasts, and this whole working from home thing has really destroyed that.
Oh my God, yes. Once my commute went from an hour and 20 minutes to 15 minutes, my podcast listening plummeted quite dramatically.
Yeah.
Yep. That's I no longer have an office to go into at the moment. So the commute time is currently my bedroom to my office.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's rough, I'll tell you. Let's get into this manga then. So, Kieran, you have some fun facts for us, I hear.
I do have a couple of fun facts. So this is actually a really recent book. Started in February of 2018. God, do you guys remember 2018? Approximately 400 years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
A long time
in a galaxy far, far away.
Oh my God. Yeah. So this was written by an author called, and I apologize if I pronounce this incorrectly, Speaker Aoki.
Okay. Your best as good as mine.
Yeah. I've attempted to research this person. I cannot find any, definitive juicy information about them. But they have also written a couple other series called Beasts of Abigail and Devil Rock. And what I found really interesting, and this is talked about a little bit in the second volume, I think, or in the first volume, sorry, Kaiju Girl Caramelise is actually published in a seinen magazine called Monthly Comic Alive. And seinen is a genre that's more geared towards older teenage boys and young men. But the author and the editor definitely they describe it as being a shoujo manga, which is more for teenage girls. And so they apparently the author originally tried to pitch it as being a seinen manga about a girl who turns into a kaiju, and was so it's gonna be real seinen and boys are gonna love it. And the editor was no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Which I think was brilliant.
which I think was a very good call. Which is a very good call on their part. The author also talks about how the series wasn't really doing very well, and nothing that they'd kind of put out for Kaiju Girl Caramelise was being taken to like second printing or anything like that, until the author was like, hey, you know what, I'll just put the first chapter on Twitter and just kind of see what happens. And bingus bongus, the series suddenly got like really, really popular, and it all went to second printing, and is now apparently doing very well. So yay!
I was happy to see in that, because their little comics about the making of each volume has a little like 1 or 2 page thing that the author Aoki said that this is the first time that he's ever had a book go to second printing. So it's like a huge victory to suddenly have this book like blow up thanks to Twitter. So sometimes Twitter is not the worst thing in the world. It only is the worst thing in the world like 90% of the time. But.
Yeah. I liked the story too about how like the first meeting to pitch the idea for the manga went, because the author went in with 0 ideas and was just like, how about this? How about Kaiju, who's a high school girl? And yeah, and they just kind of like spitballed it off the top of their head, and it became this brilliant, clever thing. So
yeah, and how they were like, for one of the chapter, like chapter 4, they couldn't think of how to proceed with the story, and they were just up like literally all night in a Denny's working on the story. He has like a map in one of the volumes, and like, oh, this is what inspired this scene, and this is what inspired that scene, and here's the Denny's where I fell asleep talking to my editor at 4 a.m. Which I think was nice, because I don't know, those kind of stories with the behind the scenes stuff is always interesting to me.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like, oh, this is like one dude talking to his editor basically, and that's what got this comic going, which is cool.
Yeah.
Any other fun facts, Kieran? Before
that's all the fun facts. I need like a sign off in the show to indicate that I'm at the end of the fun facts.
What if we clipped that and put that on a soundboard? So it's every time you end, it's a clip of you saying, I need this sign off.
Or you just need like a snappy catchphrase, like, and that's all the fun. Facts.
And that's a fact.
And that's a fact. And that's all the fun for this comic, and that is a fact.
There it is.
Let's get into the not fun part. The because that implies that that's the only fun part, and everything else
the only
is
thing
like misery. Just
the rest of the book
miserable.
is drudgery.
All right, so volume 1, we meet our heroine. I don't know how to say names in the best of times, so
Kuroe
Akaishi is a young girl, and we get this little intro that's in color, which is really nice because it's
the color pictures
gorgeous.
Are really gorgeous.
Yes.
And she is confessing her feelings to a boy, but they're like little kids, She's like holding up flowers and stuff, but she's rejected, and then transforms into a giant. Her hand turns into a giant clawed hand, like a kaiju hand, perhaps. And then. So that little intro was like, okay, so this is supposed to be setting up like that this is a thing that she's always been dealing with, like emotions tied to this. So she's like the Hulk. If the Hulk turned angry, instead of angry, it was like, oh, I'm so infatuated with this person. Oh no.
Oh no.
So then we skip ahead to the present, where Akiashi is been repressing all her emotions, and basically she's gone full emo, Hot Topic, like clothes and slouches, and even her nickname is Psychotan, which is so mean.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah. So she doesn't have any friends, and she really wants to crush all the popular girls flat, but is like, no, I can't turn into a kaiju and murder people. That would be wrong.
That would be wrong. Yeah.
And, but we find out, which we already learned from, the cover art and everything, that, she has a genetic condition that makes her turn into a kaiju when she experiences high levels of emotion. And because of this, she's purposely tried to isolate herself basically for years now. And I'm like, it's weird that her parent would put her in normal school if she had this condition.
So, but her mom is like, we'll talk about it in a bit.
Yeah, we'll get to her.
Yeah.
And she's convinced that no one would ever accept her as she is, which, I could understand why you would feel that way if you turned into a kaiju.
Yeah.
And then she has like her secret eating spot at lunchtime where she can kind of go hide out. And I had to screenshot that panel because it was pretty much exactly what I did in school, which I did have a couple friends that would join me in these spots that were like, oh, this classroom's never locked. Let's just eat in here. And she's saying, no one can interrupt my precious lunchtime here. I'm like, man, I feel that.
That's a mood.
Yeah.
I don't know about you two, but I would definitely on work lunch breaks go and hide in my car or, find a quiet spot that no one really goes to in the building and eat where no one could be asking me dumb questions.
Yes.
I've been there. Or even just like, I'll put headphones in even if I don't have music on, just so people don't ask me things. Like this is my time.
Yeah. Like, I am being paid to be here, and this is the time where I'm not being paid, so I'm going to eat my lunch, and I'm not going to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great. So she goes to her eating spot, like usual, but she runs into the hottest, most kawaii boy at school, Arata Minami, and he is beloved by everyone because he gets so many likes on his Insta.
And he's like cute as hell.
He's super cute.
So
he's like tall, handsome, got the wavy hair.
Yeah,
got
like the kind of messy hair look.
Yeah. But it's like messy, but also you can tell he like puts a little bit of effort into it.
Oh yeah, intentionally messy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, oh my god, Minami.
Minami-kun.
So, wow, you guys are really into this guy. Okay. Wasn't expecting.
Look, honestly, all I'm saying is that if I was in high school, Minami would be the kind of guy that I would be like, wow, I really want to be such good friends with that guy. And I don't know why.
That's fair.
And then like 6 years later, I'd be like, right.
Right. It all makes sense now. So she's like not interested in him and is rebuffing his attempts at even having a conversation. But he's just like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess I'll work on my terrible personality and I'll give you some space. And then he leaves. So you're just like, dang, guy. Like, that's not the reaction I was expecting from this guy at all. Which
I did like in the scene, though, how she chews him out. Like, because he's like, oh, I don't know. What's so great about me anyway? And she's like, dude, people like you.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. She does like kind of take a few strips off him, which I did enjoy.
Yeah. Because he's very like, woe is me. I'm so popular. It's such a burden to be this handsome.
It's so hard being so cool.
I don't know why they like me. But I do like that he has this kind of self-doubt because he's not just like this, I'm so popular and amazing attitude. He is kind of like,
as we get to know him more. Definitely.
More to come too. But
right. I like the character, especially as you learn more about him. It was just this initial part. I'm like, is he messing with her? Like, what is going on here? I was a little concerned because of American pop culture stuff generally has the hot guy or gal like leading the person on. Yeah. And I was really worried that's where this was going to be going, and that would lead to, kaiju happening. But that is not where it goes, thankfully.
Not where it goes.
No.
Which I was very happy about, because that would be pretty boring. I did also enjoy
that when she chews him out and she's like, shut the fuck up. You like, people like you and stuff. He doesn't go like, I guess the way that I was kind of expecting it was that he would be like, whoa, she's so intriguing and like, she doesn't treat me like everybody else. But instead he's like, maybe I do suck. That's actually a good point. I'll go think about that.
Yeah. He's like, he actually reflects on it and like goes away and thinks about it and comes back and is like, you know what, you were right. And it's like, what? This is a level of maturity we like never see in especially high school boys,
Right. Yeah, for sure. So then the next day he comes back again, but this time he's like, hey, there's this place that serves these giant pancakes that are amazing, are supposed to be amazing. So I have these tickets. I'm supposed to meet some friends there. And so she kind of reluctantly, just because she's afraid of, like she wants to go mostly because she's been hearing about these pancakes for so long and is very interested.
They look fucking good.
They did look amazing.
They look so good.
It's so hard to read most manga and not be hungry by the time you're done reading them.
Right.
Yeah. I love the art of her facial expressions, like throughout, like her panicked faces and everything. But like the face she makes when he mentions pancakes is just like, yes, I will go get pancakes. Like she is just like, she's been so caught up in everything else, and then he says pancakes, and then just like something switches in her brain. It's like, absolutely, hell yeah, I want pancakes.
Yeah, exactly. That's very good.
I can
so
relate
she
to
of
that.
course goes because, like, why wouldn't you go and get pancakes with the handsome
Pancakes. Yeah.
boy? But she gets there and it's all been a setup because there's just the two of them. But he's doing the like, oh yeah, I guess they all canceled at the last minute. Isn't that funny?
Ha ha ha. Anyway, let's go and get a pancake.
Let's go get pancakes.
So he says to her over the top of the giant stack of pancakes that he noticed that she gets teased and bullied all the time, but that she tries her hardest to be a good person still and has a heart of gold. And that's not what she was expecting. She's like, I better eat more pancakes, because she's getting kind of like embarrassed about like being complimented by this boy she likes, because she's never had that happen before because of, turning into a kaiju in front of the last boy she liked didn't go super well.
Yeah.
That'll do it for you.
Yeah. And so she's like, okay, you seem cool so far, so you should eat your pancakes.
He does say like, nah, I don't want to eat because I pork up real easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and then she's
funny.
like, dude, I don't care how you look. Just eat the damn pancakes.
Right.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yes, thank you. Like,
And
pancakes
they're
look so good.
right. They're having a good time. And you kind of are like, that's weird, because like, I get that he's like kind of a model online, and I think they even mentioned like he's had offers from agencies and stuff because he's so popular.
Yeah. Like he has like they don't call it Instagram.
They call it Insta
like
the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Insta. Yeah, so he has an Insta, and he gets so many likes on his photos, and so
that's
like
a
big deal.
recurring theme in this book, though, is people getting liked. Which all I could
Yeah.
think of was how the opposite was true for the house husband. In Way of the House Husband,
Oh my
how
God, yeah,
he makes
no
these
likes.
beautiful like meals and preps them all cool and takes all these like perfect photos and gets no likes. He'll get like one like and be like, yeah. It's a pretty good running gag they have in that book. So they're having a good time, and as they're leaving, Akiyasha is like, this is going well, but then he holds her hand and she says she had previously talked about how the world always kind of looks gray to her and stuff. And now she's saying that everything looks pink, and she feels faint, and she falls off a bridge and then turns into a kaiju.
Yep. Just like that.
Yeah.
That's how love is.
You just
And
fall off a bridge and turn into a kaiju.
Yeah,
that's how
so
Brittany and I
relatable.
got together. One of us.
Tale as old as time.
And so she says, even though love is nothing but terror, she can't control herself anymore. So that's the end of the first chapter. So Steph, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love how, at least in my copy, those pages right there are in color. And like the ways they mention color throughout, especially like the first book, is really interesting. Because when she's drawing, she's only drawing in gray, even though she has like all these colors available to her. And she says the world looks gray. And then when she's in love, she sees the pink, and like the art itself turns into color. And it's just, I like the use of colors showing like her outlook on the world.
Yeah. I thought that was very well done as well.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on chapter 1, Kieran, before we move into chapter 2?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so good.
That's so cute.
Like I'll be honest. When I first started reading it, I was like, this is kind of weird. And then like when Minami first like kind of showed up, I was like, ugh, fucking like, here we go, some hot anime boy who's like whatever. But by the end of this, I was like, oh, he's actually really interesting as a character. She's really sympathetic, and now she's turned into a giant monster. And I was like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. I can see. Like if this this is the first chapter. If this was posted on social media, I totally get why it like spread so far and did so well, because it's a very solid first chapter.
Yeah, for sure. We get a lot of character about like there's not a lot of individual characters so far, but we get enough of them early on that it feels like a coherent like little world she lives in, like her little bubble. I liked how, even though we're only getting like a small piece of the world that these characters inhabit, especially because it's mostly from one character's perspective so far, but it feels fleshed out because they do that trick of, you don't have to give every detail, but if you just kind of give us enough, your brain just kind of can fill in the rest. Like, oh yeah, that's pretty average school. These, you kind of get who the mean girls are right away, and you get her stuff. And it just, I don't know, it all worked really well in a short amount of time. Like it didn't take multiple books to get me on board with the characters. It was like by the end of this first chapter, it was like, okay, I get what's happening. I'm liking it. I like the characters. So I was just full bore into keep going.
Yeah.
All right. So, Kieran, do you want to take chapter 2?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the military immediately spring into action and fire on Akashi, and she's initially like, this is so annoying, but then she sees Minami like down by the bridge trying to save her mum's dog, and she's like, holy shit, fuck, he can see me. And she dives into the river, deeply, deeply embarrassed. And whomst among us have not dove into a river to escape a cute boy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So relatable.
I can't personally say I have, but I do have to say that one of my favorite characters was Jumbo King, the mom's dog, who is
Jumbo King.
a corgi, I'm assuming.
I think he's a corgi, yeah.
And he is the biggest dumbass, but so lovable at the same time.
So stupid.
And like smiling in like every
and wearing a
picture of
little
him.
bow tie.
Oh my gosh. The first time I read it and I read that his name was Jumbo King, I was just like, oh, his name is Jumbo King.
Perfect.
He's so cute. Like,
yeah, it was very good. And he's like
adorable.
doing such like dog stuff. So it's kind of perfect. Like the mom at one point is in a car and the dog is in the back, and she looks away for a second, and when she looks back, the dog's gone, and they do that like cartoon thing of like a dotted outline where he used to be. Yeah. I'm like, that gag is perfect. Like,
yeah, especially for Jumbo King.
Yes. And he's always like running and just crashing into things. And I have to say, having a dog who's kind of a dumbass sometimes, Louie will get so excited and worked up that they'll do that thing when they have too much energy where they just want to run back and forth through the house. And so he'll have me throw toys, but he will like run as fast as he can and slam into the wall. And I'm just like, why are you doing that? You can stop it before you crash into the wall. I've seen you do it. But this dog does that exact same type of stuff all the time, which made it very endearing for me.
Yeah. There's a bit where she runs into her mum in the park, which we'll get in a little bit later. But there's like one panel, because she has Jumbo King with her. There's like one panel where she's like, where the mum's like walking away, and Jumbo King just like jumps into a tree, like just into the trunk, and just smashes right into it.
Yep.
I'm just like, oh, Jumbo King.
He's so lovable.
That's just classic Jumbo King, am I right?
Classic Jumbo King, right? So, Akashi then wakes up the next day with no recollection of what happened whatsoever. And of course, she is then deeply embarrassed to learn that she is now known as Harugan. Dun, dun, dun. So everyone's like talking about her on the radio and TV and talking about, where did she come from? What does she want? How much is she going to destroy? And they're like, what should we call her? Harugan.
Also, that's where Hot Sandwich Man came from. There's a panel that I had to screenshot where someone is saying,
that's right.
Mr. Hot Sandwich Man, what would you name the kaiju? It's like a man on the street segment. But I'm like, Mr. Hot Sandwich Man is probably going to be my new name if I ever change it because it's pretty damn good.
That is great.
Hot Sandwich Man Gregory? Was that what it would be?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, just one.
Well, Mister's
name.
my first name. Hot Sandwich Man is my middle name. Gregory is still my last name.
Please, Mr. Gregory is my father. Call me Hot Sandwich Man.
Exactly.
I go by my middle name, Hot Sandwich Man.
You know, you can change your name to pretty much anything, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
So at school the next day, she finds out that Minami was injured yesterday, and she runs from the room distraught. She goes to her lunch spot, of course. But she then sees Minami talking to a beautiful girl.
No.
She immediately assumes that this girl is his girlfriend, admonishing herself for ever thinking that he was interested in her, and so she avoids him, which I'm like, can relate.
Yeah. She's a very relatable character.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like
the writing definitely nails that incredibly awkward teenage crush happening.
Yeah.
And I think even though kaiju are involved, in a much more realistic way than I've seen in a lot of other comics.
Yeah, and like her anxiety and panic, and I'm just like, oh, so relatable.
Yeah. It's almost like her being a kaiju is just a metaphor for all this stuff. Her anxiety and depression. I know.
And self-doubt? What?
Honestly, I don't believe it.
No, okay.
Too far-fetched.
It was just a theory, so
yeah,
we can rein it back in.
It is interesting that like if the kaiju thing was replaced with like profuse sweating or something, like the writing would still be really solid in terms of like her character. Like she is a very, very relatable character, and she's like really well written as like a teenage girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's one of the things I think that made it work so well because of I mean, kaiju being in it was probably be enough to get me to read it anyway. But
yeah, well, that's why I picked it up off the bookshelf. I was like, what is this? It has a kaiju on the cover. But
now, if you had come to us and said, this book's about a girl who sweats a lot when she gets nervous, we'd be like, well, I mean, if it's good, then we'll see.
Really, no, trust me. It's so good. It has a dog named Jumbo King.
Oh, well, then I'm on board.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
you sold me.
10 out of 10 already. So she's trying to avoid Minami being like, nope, can't, nope, don't want to engage, nope, not interested. But for some reason, her tail keeps sprouting up. So like, as you know, she can kind of like, she transforms like a little bit sometimes when it starts to kind of, you know, get to her, and then, you know, she can fully transform. But so she keeps sprouting this tail, which is really annoying. And she runs into her mum in the park, who basically has like a nice little like mum conversation where she's like, you know, despite everything, like, you're still my daughter and I'm still gonna protect you and love you and stuff. But let's talk about her mum.
Her mom is, okay, I mean this in the best possible way, massive bimbo. However, super sweet and loves her daughter very much and loves Jumbo King very much and is trying her best to protect her. That said, her and Jumbo King share a brain cell.
Yeah, honestly.
I think that's fair. I think she definitely means well.
Yes.
And 100% would do anything to protect her daughter. With her shared brain cell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly fascinating that like Akashi is like, I'm going to turn into a kaiju if I get upset, and I'm really distressed about that. And her mom's like, I love you. I support you. You're doing great. You're wonderful. Like, this is so cool. And I'm like,
but honestly, though, that's great.
What?
From like,
it's fantastic.
Especially like for a teenage girl to be told from her mom that it's okay, whatever she looks like. You know? Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care how big you are. I don't care if you're a monster. You're great how you are. Which is kind of, you know, Akaishi's journey throughout this whole thing is just like learning to accept herself. So Her mom
Absolutely.
may not be the brightest, but
No.
but I think that's exactly what Akashi needed to hear, you know.
So after Akashi and her mom and Jumbo King obviously have like a bit of a chat, Akashi's like, you know what? Just like the cherry blossoms, this is really nice, but it's going to go away. And that's fine. Like, I can totally deal with that. Just kidding. Psych. Her feelings and her tail doesn't go away. It's still around.
I did like that, where you're just like, okay, yeah, everything's gonna be fine. But again, that whole being like depression and anxiety, it's like sometimes it just doesn't quite want to leave when you want it to.
Yeah. There's a lot of that with Akashi, where it's like, I think I'm fine. I can do this. Nope. Panic.
Yep.
Yep.
It's like up and down, up and down. I'm like, oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I do enjoy like the really hard cut, because like when she's in with the cherry blossoms, it's like really soft, super like shoujo kind of like big eyes, like, and you know the text is like really huge and it's very beautiful and like full page spreads. Hard cut, small panel, her just on the bed like, what is happening? Why won't this go away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that night, unable to sleep because she still has this giant tail, Akashi looks out the window when she sees what looks like another kaiju, perhaps come to challenge her. So she goes down and has a look, and just kidding, it's actually Minami's girlfriend, Manatsu, in a handmade sleeping bag. Turns out she's not his girlfriend, and she's also really super obsessed with kaiju and wants to know everything about Harugon. Let's talk about Manatsu.
I love this character so much.
Is so not what I was expecting, and it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Completely
I love
blindsided. I thought it was going to be like, oh, it's his sister or his cousin, or they were childhood friends, or, you know, something like traditional, and it's not. It's just her being obsessed with kaiju and being like, ooh, woo, crush me, please.
Oh my god,
yeah,
yes,
they go
right?
full into that. Like, I want him to stomp me, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you do you. Like, yeah.
You get
There's
it,
a
girl.
panel
Like,
at some point where she's imagining like what would be the normal version of the guy putting his arm up on the wall and being like, hey, how you doing? And then she reimagines it as a kaiju, basically smashing the building in the exact same pose with her in it. And she's just gets the like flushed face and is just like, oh my.
It's it's so fucking funny. Like how horny she is for being destroyed by a kaiju.
Yes.
It's so funny.
And her costumes are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how they set it up as like, okay, this is going to be that trope of the, you know, the love rival and like, great, this is the girlfriend or the girl who wants to be the girlfriend. And then it's like, nope, she just loves Harugon. And will be a totally awesome supportive friend for Akashi. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Like, that's what I want to see.
There was also like a bit where like I was almost kind of sucked into it as well, because she's like looking down onto the balcony and it's like because the sleeping bag it looks like a little grub kind of thing, and I was like, oh, maybe there are other kaiju. Wow, that would be like a really interesting twist. And then like when she goes down, I was like, that looks like a really shit looking grub. I did something not quite right.
It's real tiny too.
Yeah. And so that reveal from like it might be a kaiju to it's not a kaiju, it's a girl, it's the same girl as before, and then like it's not even his girlfriend. I was like, oh my god, this is so much whiplash.
Yeah. And not only is she not the girlfriend, but she's in love with Akaishi's kaiju form. Like,
And so they kind of talk, and Manatsu makes the conclusion, kind of herself in a way, and Akashi just sort of agrees with her, that Akashi must be Harugon's priestess. And she's basically like, we're going to be super good friends so that I can meet Harugon again. And you can get him to come and like crush me with his foot.
Yeah, I love that she jumps to that conclusion. Like,
like immediately.
Oh, you're the priestess. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Like you summon him. Yeah.
But of course, you, a high school girl, must be the priestess.
It's the only explanation.
The only explanation.
I love it.
And so the next day at school, Manatsu straight up is just like, hey, I'm going to help you get your boy, and just strolls right up to him. And she's like, do you have a girlfriend? No, she says, do you have a lover?
Right.
And which I'm like,
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how old are they?
Yeah, right? And he says, no, but there is someone that he likes, and he looks straight at Akashi.
Mm-hmm.
What are you guys thinking so far? Are you like, because I think that's the end of one of the chapters.
Oh, is it? I think it's beyond adorable, and I love it.
I think the addition of Manatsu is what like really put this book over for me, because like you said, it didn't go with like the stereotype other character being added, like a rival for his affections or whatever. She does not care about human men at all.
No.
She's just like, nope, only interested in kaiju.
Yeah. And it is funny because she's got some of the tropes, like she's the really rich girl and she's like super hot. So all the girls are like, oh, they're going to be jealous of her. And then she's just like, yeah, that if he can't crush me with one finger, I am not interested.
Yeah. Yeah. There are several parts in this whole series where they like set up a trope and then they twist it around and do something different with it. And it was a lot of fun. I just adore Manatsu.
She is fantastic. I really, really enjoy her like addition to it, because I feel like it kind of like the direction that it was going before she kind of comes in like upsets things a little bit. Cool. I would have totally enjoyed that. But I feel like taking it even further like to the left field was stroke of genius. Loved it.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah. Plus it's nice to see Akashi interacting with a female friend.
Yes.
Yes. And kind of learning how to trust a friend.
Yes, yes.
Which was cool.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because she's not had that level of trust with anybody except her mom. Like, that's the only one she's really... And then there's another character we meet later that's like, you kind of think, is this guy her dad at first? But then you're like, oh no, it's just some dude that's like knows, like, I don't know, it's a friend of her mom's.
Family friend or something.
Yeah, but he's like some kind of researcher apparently, and that's why he's kind of in on what's going on. I'm assuming that guy will be important later, because I thought like that it was one of those where it's like, oh, it's 3 volumes and that's everything. I'm like, oh no, that's just everything that's out so far. So I was wrong on that front.
I think it might be all that is going to be out.
Really? Okay.
But
Because
I'm
it
not
didn't have a
sure.
definitive ending, I didn't feel like.
No, I mean, it is kind of a little ending, but at least that I've seen, I haven't seen any word of other
interesting.
volumes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, Volume 3 came out. Volume 3 came out in America in like April or something, so it was really recent.
Well, that's a little disappointing if true.
My fingers are crossed. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, I hope there's more, but I don't know for sure.
Because Volume 3 really leaned into like adding a bunch of more characters and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
But,
it could easily go on.
Yeah, I hope so. But I guess let's get into the last bit of book 1. So Akashi is mortified once again and doesn't understand what the heck is going on because she still has her tail. So she runs away from her PE class and hides in the equipment room. But some mean girls lock her in, which is one of those pranks that people would do. And I'm just like, people do that kind of stuff for real. So this was like, I've never had it happen, thankfully. But I was also like, 6 inches taller than most of the other kids at my school. So wasn't a huge problem. I kind of reached being, 6 feet tall young. So as much as I probably would have been bullied, I maybe avoided some of that.
So just to briefly derail, I looked up the Kaiju Girl Caramelise like website, and 2 things. 1, it is still being updated.
Okay,
it is. So it's a monthly thing now. So it gets published apparently on the 4th of every month. However, also, because it's translated the page, it's translated a lot of things very literally. And so it has like little character profiles. And for Jumbo King, it just says, Jumbo King, Akaishi's dog. I'm always dripping.
Wow. Is that Google
Okay.
Translate trying to translate the website? Okay.
Oh
Oh, man.
Jumbo King, always dripping, man.
Yeah. I mean, relatable.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so she's locked in the equipment room, and they're bragging about protecting Minami from her, and he overhears, and he's just like, "Wow, I'm the worst because I let this happen to this person I like." So he goes and lets her out, and she still thinks she has her tail, because why wouldn't she? So she's like, "Okay,
Right.
I just have to come clean, tell him what's going on," and honestly, she still should have. But of course, the tail's retreated, so she chickens out because she's
Yep.
calmed down by the fact that he showed up and actually like seems to care about her. So it's kind of that, like, depending on the situation, the emotions like kind of change how they kind of make her body react. Or it's kind of like him
Yeah.
being kind is one thing, but it, like, when it changes to the romantic side, that's when it triggers it really bad.
yeah.
Relatable.
Yeah. So she's relieved, though, that he didn't, that nobody really noticed that the tail was happening. But because of her clothes are not like magic comic book clothes, like they are in a lot
they're
of
not
comic
Yeah.
Hulk
books.
pants at all. They're not like the Hulk.
So she
No.
has like a giant hole in her uniform, and so her ass is just visible through it.
Just a whole ass hanging out.
Yeah. Awkward.
Yeah. So she hides in a one of those like mats from the gym and just kind of like rolls up into that, and it's just like, okay, you can leave now. I'm good. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So she's like, nobody likes me anyway. Blah blah blah. So he's like, I'm pretty sure I can find lots of things to like about you, and I'll tell you all the things I find. And
This
she-
really, I was like, this is fucking cute.
yeah.
Right? He's so
And then
sweet.
she's so relieved and so happy, and she goes to get her bag, and then fully turns into Harugan because she's
Yeah.
overwhelmed by her emotions and realizes that she's never going to have a normal relationship, but she wants to try anyway. So, and that's the end of volume 1. So, Steph, why don't you kick us off, if you don't mind, with thoughts on volume 1 kind of as a whole?
Oh, I just love it so much. There's so much I love about it. I love how vulnerable the characters are. Like, Kaiji is just so anxiety ridden and doubts herself so much and doesn't know how to be herself. And then you got Minami, who, like, on the surface is like this super hot, popular guy, but he has like all this self-doubt too. And it's like, okay, this is really relatable. Like, these characters, you could really feel for, and they feel like real people, even though it's the story about a kaiju.
Right.
So I love the characters so much. I mean, I love kaiju in general. So,
Oh, same. Yeah.
I would have read this regardless. But it's really adorable. And I wrote down, there's a quote that Minatsu tells Akaishi when they're talking about their love interests. And she says, "Let's love in a way that lets us treasure ourselves." And I thought, oh, that's just beautiful. Because, like, it's not just about, like, let's love these boys.
Yeah.
It's let's be good to ourselves and let's love ourselves, too. And I was like, damn.
Yeah.
That is good.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I loved it. It has these great little messages in it, and it's adorable and cute. And in addition to being funny, and she wants to be stomped by a kaiju,
So
and I love
funny.
her.
Now,
So funny.
Minami is, in a lot of ways, I think, the author's self-insert, in that, based on the little, like, behind-the-scenes things he's posted, I'm like, wow, this is a guy who does not, like, who's very good at what he does, but does not have the confidence to be like, oh man, check out
Interesting.
my cool art, because he's talking about, like, I went to my editor and I had no idea what to talk to him about, and then he just pitched a million things and landed on this, and then, oh, we couldn't figure out chapter 4, so we stayed up all night. It's just like he has all this self-doubt that comes through in those ones that I'm like, okay, I can definitely see where the characters are coming from, that he is channeling these feelings I'm sure he has had his entire life and his entire career into these adorable anime characters who are dealing with like high school and turning into kaijus and things.
It feels very genuine.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
They're not just following tropes or whatever. They're creating these believable people. So
like it definitely feels so far like it's like it's a relatable, very heartfelt story about like high school relationships, and the kaiju thing is kind of just like the hook for it,
right?
Because like
that's the fun.
Like I feel like kind of by the end, like their relationship, Minami and Akashi, like their relationship, so cute. It's so like so I have cavities. It's so like sweet. But like the kaiju thing is kind of like it's just like a fun twist and like a fun like kind of hook for it that like. Like I'm interested in kind of like learning more about that. But I like by the end of this first volume, I was like invested enough in their relationship that I was like, I want more. I want to see more of them like hanging out together.
Yeah.
So,
it's surprising how many quiet moments this book with this subject matter finds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I feel like in the hands of another author, it may have been. That, like, and it may be that because he did talk about that first version that he was like outlining and stuff, and then he's like, well, I got to make it for this boys manga, so like no sparkles, like it's got to be actiony, and I'm like, it makes me assume there was a version that it was like half action kaiju smashing cities and half the high school stuff, and I'm so glad that his editor had the foresight to be like, actually, what would work better is if you make it like a girl's manga, but still have the kaiju stuff. And I have to say, his kaiju art is so cool. Like
very good.
The way the style is able to shift between the cutesy, and where his editor told him, no, you need to add more sparkles.
More sparkles.
More sparkles, yeah.
It really helps with that contrast between the two settings, essentially, that are happening.
Yeah,
like the art is like in some places like it's very like simple in a way, and then like in the kind of the massive kaiju transformations, or like when she's like half girl half kaiju, like he's obviously like really flexing to be honest. He's obviously got like a ton of like artistic talent, and it's very, very good, especially like the I think Steph, you mentioned like some of like the colored panels as well, like look really good,
beautiful. Yeah. I do love some of the simple parts too, though, like just when the way he draws her when she's anxiety ridden, like it was just like the super dark circles for her eyes, like it conveys what she's feeling so well, even though it's just a bunch of scribbles,
the sketchy version of her when she's really upset or worked up or whatever, I really enjoyed too, because she'll just turn into like, it's basically like round with like little horns, like the kaiju horns, but like,
just like a little,
because her hair always has those little horns, like her hair kind of forms the same shape. And also I did want to talk about the design because of the kaiju Haragon, because obviously inspired by Godzilla based on the basics. No way. I mean, there's a lot of kaiju out there, so it's not like there weren't other sources to pull from, but it's different enough like that I enjoyed it. And the big thing though that I think really sold the design for me was when she sprouts the spikes out of her back, the top one has this giant heart in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Because it's almost always related to her anxiety around relationships and actually accepting the fact that someone could love her, that, so I just liked how this, the Haragon is fully encapsulating her own self-doubt specifically to her romance, with this boy. So I thought the design was very good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the hearts in the eyes was also a nice touch. Because she keeps turning to her, the boy, and being like with these hearts in the eyes, and there's a part later where he even like comments like, "Oh, it keeps looking at me. Isn't that weird?" And then when he almost gets crushed, he's like, "Nope, I was wrong. I'm out of here."
I love that.
It's my imagination, but then that happens later. But I don't know. This book really worked for me. I think it's a pretty easy recommend. for people to pick up. But we're not done talking about it. We're actually going to cover Volume 2 next time. So, Steph, thank you for joining us for this episode. Why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at Starlit Firefly. And you can also find me on the Welcome to St. Paxton podcast, and that is at St. Paxton Podcast.
And that would be part of the Geekly Inc. network.
It sure is.
Wow, we're reworking on collecting all of the other hosts as guest hosts for this, so we get to mark
like the 5 pieces of Exodia.
Gotta catch them all.
Kieran, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Mr. K_Bennett. You can also check out my D&D podcast, which is for Crits and Giggles. That is at 4CNG Podcast. Well, we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/for Crits and Giggles. And if you go and join that, we actually have an episode coming out very soon. Well, fingers crossed soon, that has the Game Master from St. Paxton podcast, Veronica. So we do like a little thing on that. So go and join our Patreon if you want to listen to that like as soon as you possibly can. Jonah, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, you can find me all over the place. I'm on Twitter at @ARealJonah. You can find me on our show's account often at Inks and Issues, where you want to talk about comics. But if you really want to get into some comics discussion, I don't think we've really talked about the fact that we have a Discord that is starting to get more and more active. So people should check out our Discord, which is just Inks and Issues like everything else. And we have some people on there lately that have been getting into some comic discussions. Some are from other podcasts that are also comic related. So hello. Speaking of, we're streaming this live. We have a friend in the chat right now who we were on the Men of Steel podcast with Case, and it's you should check that out because we were on an episode of that as well. So that's another place you can find me in a roundabout way. So don't forget to check out our Patreon for this show, because you could help us unlock the Garfcast, where we will record an episode about every Garfield strip ever made. Yeah, that's a thing people can force us to do. No, I know you weren't trying to get a plug, but I like how I can bring this up. Oh, wow. I'm just doing it because you said something in the chat and it made me think of that. And I don't think we ever remembered to mention, because I'm terrible at remembering. I don't think we did, that people need to go get the Men of Steel episode, because that was really fun to record.
That was
Thanks
really
again
fun
for having us on. All right, I'm going to let us go because it is getting late and I have to put the kids to bed. So with that, we will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night. I love you.
Need more mutants, metahumans, or monsters in your life? Then check out these other Geekly Inc. shows, including Cthulhu and Friends, Dear Internet, Greetings Adventurers, Transformation Sequence, and many more fantastic podcasts. You can help us make the show the best it can be by supporting us over at patreon.com/inksandissues, where you can get bonus content, early access to episodes, and can even vote on comics for us to review. Don't forget to also leave us a 5-star rating and review to help us spread the word. Want to interact with us on Twitter? You can find us at Inks and Issues, or on Twitch at twitch.tv/inksandissues. Now do yourself a favor and go read some gosh darn comics.